When my stepmom told me I wasn't welcome at my own father's funeral, I didn't argue. I simply nodded and walked away. She thought she'd won. But the moment the lawyer opened his folder in front of the entire family, the look on her face was priceless. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Amelia. Most people call me Amy, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought grief was the worst feeling a person could experience. Now I know there's something worse: grief mixed with betrayal. My father passed suddenly. One minute he was in his garden trimming roses, the next he was gone. I still have trouble saying the word died. It feels too final, too cruel. He was the one person who made life feel safe, warm, predictable. And then he wasn't here anymore. I thought losing him would bring us as family closer. But instead, it brought out the ugliest parts of the people around me. Or maybe those parts were always there, and I had been too naive, too hopeful, too desperately wanting peace to see them clearly. Victoria, my stepmom, had been married to my father for 7 years. Long enough to learn how to mimic compassion when people were watching and drop the mask the moment their backs were turned. She cared more about appearances than reality. Always smiling at church, always talking about our family, always curating her social media like she lived inside a porcelain dollhouse. But behind closed doors, she and her son, Ethan, treated me like an inconvenience, like a leftover piece of my father's past they wished he'd thrown away. I ignored it. For Dad. But after he passed, ignoring became impossible. The house felt wrong without him. His slippers still sat next to his favorite chair. His mug sat dirty in the sink. World's best dad, the one I gave him on my 11th birthday. I remember holding it the day after he passed, my fingers tracing over the fading letters until the tears blurred everything. I wasn't prepared. Not for the finality, not for the silence. And definitely not for Victoria stepping into the house like she was the queen of a kingdom finally rid of its rival. 3 days after the hospital called, she announced a family meeting. I sat on the edge of the sofa, clutching one of Dad's sweaters like it could help me breathe. Victoria stood in the center of the living room, wearing black even though my father hated when she wore that color. "This will be a private funeral," she said coldly. Small, classy, dignified. Her emphasis on the word dignified wasn't subtle. She looked at me like she was reminding herself that I didn't fit her definition. Ethan sat beside her, arms crossed, sniffing like he'd been crying, but not a single tear was in sight. "I've already arranged the guest list," Victoria continued, tapping her tablet. "My church friends, the women from my charity board, and your father's co-workers. I want no disruptions." She said disruptions like she meant me. "And Liam, her grandson. And possibly the oxygen molecules flowing through the room that she couldn't control." I swallowed hard. "What about Dad's sister? What about Uncle Ray? What about—" I said small. She interrupted. "We can't invite everyone." I nodded, trying not to let her coldness overwhelm me. Dad used to stand between us when she got like this. He used to smooth things over. But now, there was no one left to soften her sharp edges. That should have been warning enough. But the real blow came later, right when I thought the meeting was over. Victoria sighed dramatically and placed a manicured hand against her chest. "Amy, darling," she only used that tone when she was about to say something awful and wanted to coat it with fake sweetness. "After considering everything, I think it's best if you don't attend the funeral." My heart stopped. "What?" I whispered. It's my father's funeral." She looked at me with pretend sympathy, the kind that made my skin crawl. "Exactly. And you're very emotional right now. We can't risk you making a scene." A scene. As if my grief was an inconvenience. As if crying over the man who raised me would embarrass her. "I won't make a scene," I said quietly. "I just want to say goodbye." She sighed, shaking her head like I was a child disrupting her dinner party. "Funerals aren't about theatrics. They're about respect, dignity. Your father wanted peace. We all do." I glanced around the room, searching for anyone to speak up. Ethan stared at his phone. My mother's side of the family wasn't even invited. And Dad's family? Victoria had already excluded them. "Let's be realistic, Amelia," she continued. "You'll make the event heavy. You always do. And I can't manage everything and you." That was the moment something inside me cracked. Not anger, not yet. Just a small breaking sound in my chest that felt like the beginning of a long fall. I stood up slowly, holding Dad's sweater to my chest like a lifeline. "Okay," I whispered. "If that's what you want." Her expression brightened instantly, too quickly. Good girl. Good girl." like I was a dog she'd finally trained. I turned to leave, my cheeks burning, my throat tight, my vision blurring. The humiliation clung to me like smoke. I felt small, erased, disposable. But as I walked past the hallway, past Dad's picture on the wall, past the space where he always hugged me, someone watched me quietly from the corner of the room. Mr. Collins, my father's attorney. He had attended the meeting quietly, seated behind Victoria, unnoticed. His eyes followed me with a mix of concern and something sharper, determination. Minutes later, when I reached my bedroom and shut the door, my phone buzzed. A message. "You should come to the reading," Mr. Collins wrote. "It concerns you directly." I stared at the message, my heart pounding. For the first time in days, a small spark flickered inside me, something almost like hope. I didn't know it then, but everything was about to change. I didn't sleep the night before the funeral. I lay awake on top of the covers, staring at the ceiling while memories of Dad ran through my mind in jagged flashes. His laugh, the way he hummed while cooking breakfast, the warm smell of his workshop, the soft scrape of his boots by the door. It didn't feel real that I wouldn't hear those sounds again, and it felt even less real that I wouldn't be allowed to say goodbye. When morning came, the house was already buzzing with movement even though I hadn't left my room. Footsteps downstairs, Victoria's voice rehearsing her widow's sorrow, Ethan's heavy walk followed by the slam of cabinets as he searched for something to eat. They didn't knock on my door. They didn't check on me. They didn't even say they were leaving. I heard the front door open, then close, then silence. They were gone. Part of me expected to feel relief that I didn't have to face them, but the loneliness swallowed me whole. A kind of loneliness I'd never felt, not even in childhood when Dad worked late and Victoria dismissed me like an extra piece of furniture. At some point I drifted into a light, dreamless doze. When I woke, the sun had already faded behind the clouds. Hours had passed. The funeral was over. Dad was gone, and so was my last chance to see him. I sat in the quiet of my room, the ache in my chest growing heavier by the second. I didn't cry, not loudly, at least. The tears just slipped out on their own, quietly soaking into Dad's sweater I still refused to let go of. I kept asking myself the same question. Why hadn't I fought harder? But grief makes your bones tired and your voice small. I didn't have the strength to battle anyone, especially not Victoria. By late afternoon, I finally stepped out of my room. The house was still empty. I moved slowly down the stairs, touching the railing Dad polished every spring. When I reached the bottom, I paused in the living room. His slippers were gone, so was the mug, so were the pictures of us. Victoria must have taken them for aesthetic reasons. My stomach twisted. I walked into the kitchen. A stack of plates sat by the sink. Fresh lipstick marks stained a wine glass. Someone had eaten a meal before going to the funeral, as if it were any other day, as if the world hadn't ended. I put the glass in the sink and stood there, palms pressed against cold granite, breathing through the thickness in my throat. Then the front door swung open. Victoria's voice floated inside first. They loved the floral arches. Everyone said it was the most beautiful service they've attended. Ethan followed at her heels, scrolling through his phone. "We should have live streamed it," he muttered. "Would have gotten more views." Views. My father's funeral. Views. I stayed hidden in the corner of the kitchen as they laughed and talked loudly, describing the event like it had been some kind of glamorous charity gala rather than a farewell to the man who had held our family together. "Tomorrow I'm meeting with the funeral director," Victoria said. "We're choosing a headstone, something elegant, tasteful, with just my name beside his." My nails dug into the countertop. She wanted to erase me completely, rewrite history, make it look like Dad never had a daughter at all. Before I could gather enough strength to confront her, the doorbell rang. Ethan went to check. A voice responded, firm, calm. "Mr. Collins. I'm here for the reading," he said. Victoria's heels clicked rapidly across the floor as she approached him. "Oh, wonderful. We can get this over with. Amelia can stay upstairs though. This doesn't concern her." My pulse spiked. Before I could second-guess myself, I stepped out of the kitchen. "It does concern me," I said quietly but clearly. The room froze. Victoria's eyes narrowed just slightly before her expression shifted into a brittle smile. "Amy, you look well-rested." I ignored her and turned to Mr. Collins. "You said I should be here." He nodded. "Yes. Your father insisted on it." Ethan scoffed. "Whatever. Let's just hear the will so we can start planning renovations." "Mom wants to turn Dad's office into an entertainment room." My breath hitched. Dad's office is sanctuary. Mr. Collins cleared his throat sharply, redirecting the room's attention. "Let's sit," he said, opening his leather folder. Victoria sat confidently in Dad's recliner, crossing her legs like she was posing for a portrait. Ethan plopped onto the couch. I stayed standing at first, unsure if I even belonged in this space anymore. Mr. Collins looked at me and motioned gently toward the chair beside him. "Please, Amelia." I sat. He began reading. The language was formal at first: the legal prerequisites, the recognition of marriage, the appointment of executor, Mr. Collins. Victoria sat smugly upright through it all, already imagining the assets flowing straight into her hands. Then everything shifted. "To my daughter, Amelia," Mr. Collins read, "I leave my home, my shares in the company, and all personal belongings of sentimental and financial value." Victoria stiffened. "To my daughter, Amelia," he continued, "I leave full authority over my estate, as I trust her judgment and integrity above all." My breath left my body all at once. Victoria's eyes darted around the room in disbelief. Ethan slowly sat up, face draining of color. "What?" Victoria snapped. "That can't be right." Mr. Collins didn't even blink. "This is your husband's signed and notarized will, updated 9 months ago. 9 months. Before his health turned. He planned this." Victoria's face twisted. "What about me? What am I supposed to receive?" Mr. Collins flipped a page. "To my wife, Victoria," he read, "I leave a monthly stipend for basic living expenses." Nothing further. Silence. Heavy. Explosive. Electric. Ethan almost choked. "This makes no sense. Dad would never choose her over us." Mr. Collins lifted a sealed envelope. He explained his reasons in a letter. "For Amelia's eyes only." My heart pounded as he handed it to me. Victoria lunged forward. "Let me see that." "No," Mr. Collins said firmly. These were his final wishes. Victoria sank back, trembling with anger. Something shifted inside me, a quiet strength rising from a place I didn't know I had. For the first time since Dad died, I felt him near. And for the first time in my life, Victoria didn't look victorious. The silence after the will reading didn't last long. It shattered the moment Victoria jumped out of Dad's recliner and jabbed a shaking finger toward Mr. Collins. "This is fraud," she hissed. My husband would never leave everything to his daughter and nothing to his wife." Mr. Collins clicked his pen closed with practiced calm. "Your husband was very clear. He updated his will in my office, alone. He knew what he wanted." Ethan stood too, fists clenched at his sides. "You're lying. Why would he leave me out? I'm practically his son." I turned slowly to him. "You didn't visit him once during his treatment, Ethan." His jaw dropped. "Because I was busy. College. You dropped out." My voice was steady, stronger than I expected. "Dad knew that too." Victoria spun around and faced me with a dramatic gasp, suddenly shifting into victim mode like she'd rehearsed it. "How dare you speak to us like this? Your father loved me. He wanted us provided for. There's no way he meant to leave us with nothing." "You're not left with nothing," I said softly. "He gave you a stipend." Her face twisted like I'd insulted her. "A stipend? He expects me to live off scraps while you enjoy everything?" "No," Mr. Collins corrected. "He expected you to live responsibly." Those were his words. Her eyes snapped back to me, burning with rage. "You think you've won, don't you? You think you can just walk in here and take everything from me?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shake. I didn't shrink. "He wasn't yours to take from," I replied. "Not when he was alive. Not now." Her lips quivered with fury. For a moment, she looked like she might slap me. Instead, she took a breath, forced a brittle smile, and tried a new tactic. "Amy, sweetheart," her voice became syrupy sweet. "We don't have to fight. We're still family. Your father would want us to support each other." She reached for my hand. I pulled mine back. She blinked, stunned. And I realized that was the first time in years I'd ever rejected her touch. "I'm done pretending," I said. "I'm done being quiet. I'm done being pushed aside in my own home." Ethan scoffed and muttered under his breath. "This is ridiculous. Mom, let's go. We'll talk to a judge. He'll fix this." "No judge can overturn a valid will," Mr. Collins said as he stood. "And if you attempt to challenge it, the court will review financial records, personal conduct, and medical history. Your father documented everything." A flicker of panic crossed Ethan's face. Victoria's too. "What exactly did he document?" she demanded. Mr. Collins paused just long enough for the tension to thicken. "Let's just say he had concerns about how his money was being used." Concerns he expressed to me more than once. I saw the way she flinched. Dad knew. He had known all along. The anger I'd been burying for years rose quietly in my chest, not explosive, not dramatic, just solid and certain. The kind of anger that finally understands its own worth. "Mr. Collins," I said, "what happens next?" He reached into his folder and pulled out a second envelope. "Your father anticipated resistance," he explained, glancing at Victoria and Ethan, "so he instructed me to prepare necessary documents in advance." He handed me the envelope. I opened it slowly. Inside were eviction papers. My breath froze. Victoria lunged toward me. "What is that? Give it to me." Mr. Collins blocked her. "This is Amelia's property now. You have 48 hours to vacate unless she chooses otherwise." 48 hours. Ethan barked. "We live here." "You lived here," I corrected. Past tense. Victoria's face contorted with disbelief. "Amelia, sweetheart, be reasonable. We just lost your father. You can't expect us to." "You told me I couldn't go to his funeral," I said quietly. "You told me I'd ruin it." She froze mid-sentence. "You removed his things," I continued. "You erased his presence. You erased me. Amy, get out." The words left my mouth more easily than breathing, and they felt right. Victoria stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was. Maybe she didn't. Maybe I didn't recognize myself either. Grief had carved me open and left behind something new, something stronger. Ethan moved toward me threateningly. "You can't do this. You take one more step," Mr. Collins said firmly, "and I will call the police. This is no longer your residence." Ethan froze. Victoria's voice broke into a shaky whisper. "Your father would never forgive you for this." I looked her straight in the eyes. And for the first time since Dad died, I didn't feel small. "My father told me to take care of myself," I said. "And that's exactly what I'm doing." Victoria's mouth opened, closed, opened again like she'd run out of scripts. Finally, she grabbed her purse, muttered something under her breath, and stormed toward the stairs. Ethan followed, slamming doors upstairs, shoving clothes into duffel bags. I didn't move. I stood rooted in the living room, listening to the storm of activity as they packed up whatever they claimed belonged to them. Mr. Collins placed a gentle hand on the back of the sofa. "He loved you very much, Amelia. He wanted you protected." I swallowed hard. Did he leave anything else? He reached into his briefcase again and handed me a small sealed letter. My father's handwriting on the front. My chest tightened. "Read it when you're ready," Mr. Collins said softly. Then he let himself out quietly. Upstairs, doors slammed. Suitcases zipped. Victoria's sobs mixed with angry muttering. Shoes thudded down the staircase. They dragged their luggage toward the door without looking at me. When the door shut behind them, the house fell silent. No footsteps. No voices. No cruelty. Just quiet. I sat on the edge of Dad's recliner, clutching the letter. For a moment, I couldn't open it. It felt too heavy, too final. But then I remembered the message he had left in his will. "I trust her judgment and integrity above all." My fingers trembled as I broke the seal. His handwriting filled the page, shaky but sure. "My sweet girl. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I wish I had more time. But I need to leave you with truth. You have always been the best part of my life. You deserved better than the way you were treated. I saw everything. I trusted you to choose your own peace. Please protect your heart. It's worth more than you know. Love, Dad." Tears slipped silently down my cheeks. Not the painful ones this time, but the kind that released something trapped deep inside. Outside, I heard a car start, then fade away. They were gone. For the first time in years, I felt like the house could breathe again. Like I could breathe again. I placed Dad's letter on the mantel, right beside his favorite photograph of us. The one Victoria had tried to hide. The quiet wrapped around me, not empty, not cold. Peaceful. Maybe revenge didn't always have to be loud. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge was finally choosing yourself.